We're going to get going soon here, folks. I just give the stream an opportunity to get up and running. Give people an opportunity to hop in if they want to. Just another minute or so. Now, if you're with me in X, for whatever reason, StreamYard is not cooperating with comments in X. So if you'd like to make a comment, question, hop over to YouTube, check out the live stream on YouTube, and I should be able to see those comments. Just another minute, we'll get going. All right, welcome everyone. I am glad you tuned in, and this is my first time going live in a couple of spaces. I'm live here, I'm live in YouTube, like I was saying before, for whatever reason, in StreamYard. Hopefully it's just maybe this iteration of it, but I can't see any comments in X, but if you hop over to the live stream in YouTube called the same thing, Gabriel Speaks Show, then you should be able to see that, or I'm sorry, to be able to comment, and I should be able to see it. So what I'd like to do is go over these witnesses. As you see, we've got Jeffrey Nuccatelli. We've got Alexandra Wiggins, Chief Alexandra Wiggins. We've got George Knapp. I don't know why I put UAP journalist. I mean, I guess that's what he's become. George Knapp is really just a journalist. And we've got Dylan Borland, a UAP witness who's an Air Force veteran. So it's an interesting list because most everyone on it we can find lots of information about, except for Mr. Dylan Borland. I have had a very hard time finding any information about Mr. Borland. So if you were able to find anything on Dylan, I'd love to hear about it. But I wanted to take a little bit of time and go over these witnesses and talk about some of it. Because I do have tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I'm going to, 7 a.m. Pacific, my time, 10 a.m. if you're on the East Coast, 9 if you're in Central Time. So tomorrow morning I'm going to be broadcasting the UAP hearing live. And I thought, hey, I could promote the show, and I love spaces. I haven't exactly done a live one on video. And I feel a little weird because I'm just like dominating the whole conversation. So I'd love it if I could see comments in X. Like I said, if you can hop over to YouTube and comment, I'd love to see any questions you might have so you can be a little more involved in the stream. So so tomorrow morning, I'm going to be covering the UAP hearing. So you can go right to the channel. I'm going to do my best not to talk over it. It should just be mostly them briefing us and giving us whatever testimony they're going to give us. And I will kind of talk between so as not to interrupt. I hope for Mr. Corbell's sake, if he's going, he puts on a tie. I mean, not to be a hater, but really, put on a tie, bro. It's just professional, It's just professional. Aside from that, looking forward to Mr. Corbell hopefully wearing a tie And I'm also really looking forward to, I hope that George Knapp puts together some kind of a list like Schallenberger did. Schallenberger's list, his document that he submitted was a good 250 pages, and there was just like so many goodies in there, not just names, but dates, any links if links were available. So it was a super helpful document. And I hope that George gives us something similar. Mr. Knapp, whatever he prefers to be called, gives us something similar, because if we get another 200 and some odd page document, we've already heard things just in the last month on his Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell. He's come out and talked about things that we haven't heard him talk about before, and he's released video that he hasn't released before. So I'm looking forward to see what exactly Mr. Knapp has in his back pocket. Hopefully we'll get some more goods on some of this stuff. Maybe we'll get some more data on why he's such a believer in Bob Lazar, because boy, if people don't shit all over the Lazar story, and I like it's been debunked over and over and over again, but Mr. Knapp refuses to say that. He believes very strongly in Mr. Lazar, so very interested in that. Jeffrey Nuccatelli, I don't. So he has a podcast. There's only like a couple videos, and his story took place about 20 years ago. He was, I believe, an MP, or he was some type of law enforcement, something in that capacity. And he, as soon as he clocked on early in the morning to his space, he was, oh gosh, where was he stationed at? Um, Another reason why chat would be so helpful. But as soon as he kind of came on for the day, people were going nuts, like crazy about this sighting that had taken place overnight. All these contractors had witnessed this UAP the size of a football field. Says that most of the witnesses are saying it was essentially flat and glowing orange. And these are contractors with super high level secret clearance. So these aren't idiots. They know exactly what they're looking at. It's their job to monitor the sky. And they had no explanation for it, obviously, which is why they were all freaking out. So he comes on duty and this is going on. And then when he starts patrolling, he's looking around, he's looking for this activity. Something happens later that evening that's pretty crazy. Now I have a video we're gonna play of what happened there in his own words when he was on the Ryan Graves podcast. That's pretty interesting. So that's what Jeffrey Nuccatelli, I'm probably saying, just completely butchering his last name, but that's what he has to say. Alexander Wiggins, if you have seen the Jeremy Corbell released video of those UFO looking things flying out of the ocean and then into the sky, in the video they're in like a target. So that was Chief Wiggins was a part of that. He observed it with his own eyes, and they don't really say if he took the video or not, but I guess it's kind of implied. I don't, maybe to keep out of trouble, they're not saying that, but essentially he was a part of that whole deal. Dylan Borland, I got nothing. I got his information about where he served, at what capacity, and I got some information about his jobs in the private sector afterwards. But other than that, I got nothing. So I'm very interested to see, maybe his story has been told under like a pseudonym and it's out there. Who knows? But that's one I'm really looking forward to hearing, because I just have no clue what that could possibly be about. But we do know he was in the Air Force. We do know he was involved in somewhat intelligence at some capacity. That's what we know so far. So starting out, we're going to check this. It's like a 7-minute video. This is going to go over the 4 whistleblowers and a little bit of what we may be looking forward to hearing tomorrow. Again, this is my first live stream, so bear with me. I'm going to try to get this going here. All right, here we go.
George Knapp joins us now with UFOs, the best evidence. George?
There are many unanswered questions about UFOs. Speculation about some long-standing government cover-up is tough for many people to swallow. You got photos, you got movie footage, you got video. There is some kind of a phenomenon here that can't just be written off.
I've always approached it as a news story. It's not my religion. It's not a belief. I don't know what to believe even now. I have secret stashes of files and things all over the station.
Mountains of evidence compiled from the government's own files. No one who knew Area 51 from the inside ever talked publicly.
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers.
They have between 30 and 50 alien bodies.
The government has been telling us for years that they're not real.
And how his life's work still influences the conversations on UFOs.
If it is true, it would be the biggest story in history. 36 years later, I'm still trying to figure it out.
All right, so number 1, George Knapp. I said it in my last video. I feel that, like, 36 years later, he's still trying to figure it out. And I feel like there's so many people that are into this that feel the same way. It seems like you take a step forward, and then sometimes it feels like you take 3 steps backwards as far as trying to figure out the mystery behind some of this stuff. All right, so here's Jeff Beccatelli on the Ryan Graves podcast. I snipped it down just as much as I could, but this is essentially an overview of what his experience was. I don't know if I would call it, I mean, it is a firsthand experience because he was present when these gentlemen were essentially freaking out on the radio over dispatch. So he was there for that part, but he wasn't actually there to see the craft. However, he heard them freaking out on the radio, and then he was one of the first people that responded and talked to all these witnesses. So I think what we're going to hear from Jeff is kind of a compilation of multiple different witnesses and what they saw. But we will let him speak for himself here. Here we go.
The cops on base, we do general law enforcement functions. You know, we respond to domestic violence incidents, DUIs, shoplifting, everything a regular cop would do. But we also have a massive security role. We're in charge of all the security on the base. So we have guys and men and women stationed all over Vandenberg, which is a massive installation. I think it's 100,000 square acres of land, 36 miles of coastland, and scattered about that land mass are these launch facilities. And they have some of the biggest launch facilities in the world there. They could put up the big Titan rockets, like I think that's the one that went to the moon. So we guard all those facilities. So back in 2003, I was the senior patrolman working law enforcement on Bravo.
Now, for those that are super in tune, you might have caught it. That last picture there of that craft landing, that was the super secretive X-37B. Very interesting vehicle. I guess it's not super secretive. I mean, you can go to Boeing's website and watch a promotional video about it. But as far as some of the missions they're on, some of those we don't hear a lot about. But that craft is very interesting. It's the capabilities that it has. If you haven't looked into it, it's very interesting.
Flight I came in to do shift change with Delta Flight offgoing. And I knew something was up when I rolled into the squadron building because there was a big crowd of people at the smoke pit right across from our armory. It's in the parking lot. And there's this big crowd, and as I pulled in, they all started to point at me. They're like, there's Jeff, you know, and I could tell something big had happened. I go over to the smoke pit, and everybody just starts to tell me.
Okay, this is a pro tip as well. Even if you don't smoke cigarettes, if you want to know what's going on somewhere, carry a lighter, hang out in the smoke pit. That's where people will be talking. I'm telling you. That's where it's at. That's where people are talking about what's really going on.
Everybody's talking at once about this UFO event that happened that morning. And initially I'm like, you know, are you guys playing a prank? Because Air Force cops are notorious for playing pretty elaborate pranks. But really quickly I realized they were not joking around. They're like, now this happened. They said there was this gigantic UFO flying around LF-21, which is Launch Facility 21, located on the north end of Vandenberg. So the story is about 8:45 in the morning. The dispatcher gets a call from range control, a technical sergeant from range control, and he says, I'm reporting an event that occurred at LF-21 and LF-10, two different sites in the same location. And what he said was the contractors working on site called range control, and they said there was a gigantic floating red square over LF-21 at low altitude. And they were just standing there watching this thing. I had the original statement from the contractors. There were 3 contractors.
Just want to say right here, thank you, Grok, for the AI artwork.
Worked for Boeing that saw this object, and they wrote sworn written statements. It was a somewhat flattened square plane, and basically just a big square object, the size of a football field, silently floating over the launch pad.
Okay, what the fuck? If you're working that shift and there's a football field size glowing square hovering over your fucking launch pad, yeah, I think I'd be freaking out too. Just saying.
Red in color, glowing this red color. So as far as I know, it wasn't a cube. It was like a flattened square.
Got it.
So yeah, they start telling me the story. And as they're briefing me on the event, I find out that the flight chief and their senior patrolman, these are the people I'm talking to, they're briefing me. They responded out there. It's when we have an incident, we have a checklist. There's no checklist for a UFO, right?
So I learned that as well, yes.
So what happens in that case?
They don't have the UFO checklist? What the fuck?
Is the on-duty flight chief will make a determination. Who do I need to notify? So this was definitely up-channeled, at least to the wing. And I can't imagine that the command post just sat on it and didn't up-channel that to higher headquarters.
Okay. Wing is wing commanders. So we know, like, that's where... That's why I think it's a big deal, because we have this up-channeled, we have this recorded from the experiencers, the very frontline contractors that saw it, to the initial people that responded and reported it, all the way up to the chain of command, probably to the tippity top of wherever that stuff goes, which apparently is still in debate about who makes these decisions.
What happened later that day?
So later in the day, things get like very interesting. It turns into like a movie, basically. As day transitioned into night, I'm cruising all over this gigantic installation. I was mostly out on the coast, and I'm looking in the sky, and I'm going around talking to everybody. I'm stopping at different security posts, like, what do you guys think about the UFO? We get this radio transmission from our security guys out at Slick 4. Now, Slick 4 is Space Launch Facility 4. It's on the south end of the base. I don't remember exactly what the transmission was, but it started out something like, be advised, we've got some strange lights out over the ocean off of Slick 4. And, dispatchers are like, Roger that, keep a visual on it. And very quickly, within a few minutes, the transmission started to get more and more excited and I guess scared. They're
agitated.
They're saying, hey, these things are, this light is moving erratically. It's getting closer. It's getting larger. And then all hell breaks loose. And they start screaming over the radio. It's coming right at us. It's coming right for us. Now it's right here. This object came in, was moving strangely, erratically. It got bigger and brighter as it came in. And then it came at a high rate of speed and flew right up to the entry control point and stopped. And they all stared at it. And then it just shot off. And this object was large too.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was, so it shot, did it shoot over land? Did it shoot
Yeah,
back over water?
it came in from the west. So the west coast of the base is the Pacific Ocean. It came in from the west and then shot off. I think it was like kind of northeast. According to, and I have one direct eyewitness that I'm good friends with that I've talked to about it. He described it as the same square.
Absolutely. I am.
Damn, that's crazy. So, okay, giant football field square. If you've heard that before, but you weren't quite sure where it came from, now you know. And now we know it's going to go on the record at Congress. What that means, where it goes from there, I'm not sure, but it's 100% going on the record. Now, when I hopped on X today, one thing I saw, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it, was this post. This is from Jeff. I've been calling him Jeffrey. I guess he goes by Jeff. It's go time, brother. The most extraordinary legislation in history is on the horizon, and the most important book ever published is imminent. Thank you for your leadership and courage. At Lou Elizondo. The most important book ever published. Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about that. It seems like the higher up you get in this UAP, UFO disclosure stuff, the smaller the circles get. And it's like nearly impossible not to cross paths with some of the folks that are involved, I think. But the most important book ever published? I mean, it's like, dude, there's War and Peace. Huckleberry Finn. I mean, the most important book ever published, Jeff. Come on. All right. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that's crazy talk. Okay. So on the Jeff thing, I also found a piece from his podcast. I don't know how much we're going to watch, but I did pull it up. And I wanted to play it for a little bit just to kind of see, and I haven't watched this at all, but I just kind of wanted to see like what this guy's about, kind of where his head's at, that sort of thing. Because I honestly didn't really look into any of it until I saw the witness list. So let me get this added, and we will check this out. Let's see what good old Jeff has to say.
So Jeff,
cool picture.
Exciting times, man. It's the first episode, a whole new show. It's pretty wild. And you met today's guest David, at the hackathon. So that is a mind blower to me. So why don't you just talk us through a little bit about what on earth that is?
Yeah, so I met our first guest, David Hooper, at the hackathon back in March. And the hackathon, for people that don't know, it was a event put together by Deep Prasad. And what they were trying to do is get some of the top minds on the planet together in one place and hack solutions to the UAP problem. So they got some data from Gary Nolan on some crash recovery material, and they were doing analysis on that and coming up with all kind of different ways to figure out what UFOs are and how we can start getting data. And David was one of the people that I met there that just blew me away. I'm like, this guy is going to do important things. And what David has done, he formed a company to put together the first world tactical UFO detection platform. And we're going to talk about that. David's
like
going to go through his entire system. And then we're going to talk about a bunch of other really cool stuff, like, we're going to talk about consciousness and the phenomenon and all kind of things. So I'm really excited to launch the podcast with David Hooper.
Awesome, man. And it's funny to me that in the current news, we're kind of explaining everything as Lockheed Martin and the Tic Tac was Lockheed, and then behind the scenes you've got big tech and all of these experts studying the real deal. So it's going to be interesting to see when that wave crashes and kind of the excuses run out, isn't it? So I'm looking forward to it.
I think that wave is coming now. There's a lot of money in the tech space being invested into UFOs, into the phenomenon, and David is part of that. And let's get this wave rolling.
Amazing. All right, let's get to it.
This is my very first podcast, so you're going to be guest in episode number 1, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, so this was like a month ago, and there haven't been any new ones. So I don't know, maybe he's doing it once a month.
Because we met at the hackathon, and
I
was super impressed with your work and what you're doing. And I was telling Tom a couple weeks ago that when I met you, I had this impression that you were going to be doing very important things in this space, and that I've been dying to reach out to you. So I'm really happy to have you on, man. Appreciate it.
Well, that means a lot to me. It was really a pleasure meeting you and having the opportunity to speak on stage with you at the night before the event. Remember, at Founders Inc. That was really great. And yeah, I take your comments graciously. I know there's a big responsibility on my part with regards to disclosure and the community, and to hold space for everyone to do things in a transparent, honest way. Because for me, one of the things I've noticed is there's a lot of I don't know what to call it. There's negativity up and about in the space, and people can feel it, and it comes through, and people get upset. And I just want to be a beacon of light and a source for good and for a way forward. So that's what I'm all about. That's my ethos. That's my
I can agree with that.
whole conviction, is to empower everyone.
I really respect that. I think that's
so
fantastic. Yeah. The first thing I saw when I was taking a few notes earlier was when you said that you were there to empower other people and experiences and people that are having contact with this, and I really resonate with that. I think that's such a fantastic.
That could be misconstrued as wacky or woo woo. You can still have it as a reference. I'm not saying wholly adopt it, but have it as a data point, and then as.
All right, sorry. I'm just trying to get to the parts where Jeff talks. These guys are interesting, though. It was that David Dominguez Hooper. I liked what he had to say. I think there's some negativity that, comes with it. It comes from all different directions. I'm not saying that, it's not warranted, but yeah, it would be nice to have less of it.
Because really what we're getting at is we're trying to understand reality itself, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in the same kind of boat that I'm in, that the reality of non-human intelligence has become very real in your life, and you've had to update your framework, right? And that's
Exactly.
really why we're all here. We're trying to come to grips with the reality that non-human intelligences are real and interacting with humanity.
Okay, so just I mean, from seeing that, I think it's clear that he is an experiencer who believes in NHI, that it's present, and so yeah, so this isn't like the testimony of Fravor, where it was like, I'm just a pilot and I saw this weird thing. This was, I was on duty. All these other guys saw this weird stuff. It impacted me in such a way that I, over the years, have, I consider myself an experiencer and have accepted this reality of like a non human intelligence that's out there. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm not judging either way, but that's good to know. I think that's interesting. They mentioned the technology and the non-human technology kind of coming to a head, and I know Ross Coulthart came out and said the Tic Tac was definitely Lockheed Martin technology. I believe this was, I'm pretty sure it's News Nation, but I think it was Red Panda Quali that posted this, and I thought that this video was pretty interesting. Let's take a look at this.
Hey, you now know that Tic Tacs are Lockheed tech. Should we take everything David Grush says with a pinch of salt, since he told you that the Tic Tacs are truly anomalous? Keep up the good work, mate.
Look, we don't say, and I've never said, that all Tic Tacs are Lockheed Martin. If you listen back to what I've said that my sources, multiple independent sources, have told me that the 2004 Tic Tac US Nimitz incident was in some way controlled or operated by Lockheed Martin, that it was a blue on blue. And if you think about it, why did the admiral of that battle cruiser fleet know and not register any surprise at all when he was approached and told about these objects? It doesn't mean that all Tic Tacs are human Lockheed Martin or other private aerospace corporation operated. As I've said repeatedly, and there's some mischievous disinformation going out there on the internet from people who are deliberately sowing disinformation, trying to cause mischief, it is entirely possible that what I am told Lockheed Martin was operating that day was an NHI retrieved craft that was being operated in some way by some kind of, I've said that my...
What the okay, hold up. So, can someone help me understand this, please? So, okay, so it was Lockheed Martin technology, but now he's saying it's not all Lockheed Martin technology, and that some of it was recovered NHI that they were controlling. Do I have that right? Like, I don't.
That all Tic Tacs are human Lockheed Martin or other private aerospace corporation operated. As I've said repeatedly, and there's some mischievous disinformation going out there on the internet from people who are deliberately sowing disinformation, trying to cause mischief, it is entirely possible that what I am told Lockheed Martin was operating that day was an NHI retrieved craft that was being operated in some way by some kind of psi operator. It doesn't mean that all Tic Tacs are Lockheed Martin. So please have a think about the implications of that. It's on the record that there is, from multiple witnesses, that there is an effort by the United States to use psi operators, people with psionic abilities, to manipulate, to operate retrieved non-human technology. We know, or I know from my sources, that there are problems reverse engineering a lot of the highly advanced technology that has been retrieved. And I know some people will be rolling their eyes and saying, spew all, give us all of your information. I have to protect my sources as a journalist. And frankly, I'm only ever as good as my sources as a journalist. The reason why I've said that Lockheed Martin was responsible for the 2004 Tic Tac incident, highly controversially, by the way, there are a lot of people who've told me I should never have said it, and I don't think that's a healthy thing in the study of the UAP issue. If somebody can prove me wrong, prove me wrong. Very happy to hear it. It's always, I think, remotely possible that my sources, who are multiple and independent, they don't know each other, are telling me the wrong thing. I guess it's possible that there is some kind of massive psyop going on to disinform me. That's possible. I think extremely unlikely. But you can't say all Tic Tacs are Lockheed Martin just because I'm saying that the 2004 Tic Tac incident was a blue on blue, where Lockheed Martin was actually in some way testing its technology against a carrier fleet. I want to make that very, very clear because there's been a lot of misrepresentation. All Tic Tac.
Is that very clear, y'all? I'm about as clear as mud. I hope you are too, because that made no fucking sense. So I guess what he's saying is that this would be like a reverse engineered craft, meaning, and so he's saying that like some of them are the Lockheed reverse engineered ones, and some of them are like still alien craft or whatever you want to call it that are out there. I mean, okay, sure, why not? If you, it's just, to me, it just seems a little like backtracking, but like in this way where you're not actually backtracking. I'm jolly glad to see you here. All right, so my comments are working. That's cool. Right on. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about the last part, but I appreciate it. All right, so let's get back to the witnesses here. All right, we're where we left off. We were at Alex Wiggins, Chief Alex Wiggins. So we got through George Knapp. We've got through old Jeff. I'm not gonna call him Jeffrey anymore. We got through Jeff, and now we're gonna get to Alex Wiggins.
Operations Specialist Senior Chief Alexandra Wiggins. Been in the Navy for 23 years and counting. I don't view myself as a whistleblower because I associate whistleblowing with, something that is wrong and the person speaking up against, something or a system that is doing wrong things. And off good old San Diego coast, being in the Navy, we go out there, we do our mission, we, workups and things of that nature. And, every now and again, we will see satellites, we will see shooting stars, things of that nature. And then you'll see things that are very unexplained, like the video that Jeremy released. And to my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon, but it looked as if it were surfacing out of the water and going up. Now, seeing lights on the horizon, very typical when you're out in the water, but seeing a light on the horizon going into the air is a different story. I'm not sure of what I'm seeing. What goes through my head, maybe there's a military team that's out there conducting flight operations. That's where you see the video cut into play, where you see it slew into that target to kind of look at it. And they're the operator, so they know how to zoom in and kind of see what the profile of the contact that we're looking at, to kind of understand, okay, if it were a ComNav radar, which is a typical, airliner, 747, then we're going to say, okay, good to go. They're, headed off to Hawaii or wherever, anywhere to the west. But that night, we didn't witness that as shown by the video. 20, 30 seconds pass after the video stops, and all of a sudden, you just see all four of them take off to the northeast all at the same time, just out of nowhere. And if I had to talk speed, it was it would say like maybe 2 steps behind instantaneous. It wasn't like if you blink it's gone. We had time to watch them go off into the distance, like, but really instantly. No noise, no sonic boom, no, effects in the water that, cause rippling in the water. Nobody was affected. Nothing was affected. We didn't get a gust of wind to hit us. And that's anything else, I'm not a scientist, but anything else that could have been disturbed with that level of speed was not disturbed.
That's wild. So there's the ones we saw in the video, but he's saying there was like 4 of them. And he says either they were operated independently and flying together in a formation, or that there was one thing controlling all of them. But it looked very similar to any formation he's ever seen. I can tell you right now, any chief at sea, they know what they're looking at when they're looking in the air. So if he says they were flying in a formation, they cut out together, we can believe what he's saying. We can trust what he's saying there.
All executed at the same time, leaving. It's not like 3 of them left and then one was kind of like a little behind them. No, they were all in sync at the same time. And that's why I said earlier that it was my thoughts were either they synced together like we do in the Navy and we all take off at turn at the same time, or, get in formation at the same time and execute the order at the same time, or one entity is controlling all 4 of those objects.
Are you willing to testify if you were called, or fill out a form to Arrow, or take it further if you're asked?
That's a good question, George. I'm not sure. I definitely, I see myself as someone that's just stepping up to share his experience. I don't see it as anything other than that. Where this goes from here, I don't know. I wouldn't mind, just adding my voice to those that have come before me, like yourself and Jeremy. I don't mind.
All right, just to be real, I think so far he might be my favorite. Just because, like, he's just expressing what happened. He's not trying to make a narrative out of it. He's not trying to make a story out of it. He's not trying to get famous off of it. They asked him about testifying. That interview was in February, so it was well before he was asked to actually testify. And he's like, sure. I mean, if that's going to help move the needle, he must believe it will help move the needle at some capacity. Again, it's like we're in this culture where we just want instant automatic gratification. The small wins are the things that we can get on record. So, like, even though the last UAP hearing might have felt disappointing to you, I didn't feel disappointed, but you might have been let down because we heard this crazy stuff, but we didn't actually see a lot of it. But the important thing is we got a lot of it on the record in the halls of Congress. And that's a win, because before we couldn't even have these types of conversations on the record in the halls of Congress. So it's a step in the right direction. We're still a long ways away, I think, from getting to where we need to be. But I do like Alex Wiggins. I like his approach. Seems like a chill dude. Seems like he's just a straightforward, straight shooter. And from my experience in the service, chiefs are the hard workers, right? They have like the respect and the rank that officers have, but they didn't get there just by going to school. They got there through hard work, dedication, and they probably went to school while working in the service or something to that capacity. So I got nothing but the utmost amount for anyone that's earned the rank of chief in any branch of the service. Okay, now Dylan Borland is a different story, y'all. You can't find anything on this guy. If you can or have found something, please throw it in the chat, because I would love to discuss it. What I was able to find is that he worked for the Air Force as a geospatial intelligence analyst, so in the field, almost 4 years for Bay Systems, which is an aerospace company, and he was working there as intelligence analyst for the geospatial unit. And then 6 years for a company called Intrepid Solutions and Services LLC. I'm not going to mention, but definitely sounds almost like an alphabet letter type company. I mean, I'm just being real, okay? Intrepid Solutions and Services LLC. What does that even mean? So I don't know his story. I don't know if he is a firsthand witness, an experiencer. I don't know if he, was witness to other people that maybe were part of the legacy programs. I mean, I just feel like we're never going to get that legacy stuff. The legacy stuff, because they've like tested the waters, I think, with the amnesty thing. They've been testing the waters. Like Luna comes out on Rogan, talks about amnesty. You start hearing the whispers about, well, if we need the truth, we need amnesty. I don't think that's going to happen, y'all. Because I don't think the American people like the idea of amnesty if these people have done some really crooked shit. And the odds are they probably have. I mean, just the things we know as far as some of the intelligence operations that have taken place, we know they've done some crooked shit. So there's our witness lineup. Again, don't forget, I'm going to be having the space tomorrow on the hearing. It's going to be live. Let me see if I can actually pull it up. There it is. Yeah. So we're going to be live tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Pacific. Hop over to YouTube. I'm not sure. I might as well broadcast it to X2. It seems to be working okay. Don't seem to be having any technical issues so far. So I'll try to broadcast to both, but you can just hop in here and I will be broadcasting the hearing bright and early tomorrow morning. Now, the last thing I wanted to really talk about before we moved on was Matthew Brown. Matthew Brown has come out and he did a 3-part article on Substack, totally free. So I highly encourage you to check it out. I will get the link to the article and put it in the chat here for y'all if you're interested. This is part 3. And this gets really interesting. I don't think I'm going to sit here and read it to you all. Let me get the link and see if this works for everybody. There's a link to the actual article. It looks like it just went to my YouTube channel. But at any rate, you can Google search it as well. Matthew Brown Medium article, or I'm sorry, Matthew Brown Substack article, and it will come up. And Matthew Brown is a very interesting character because some of the cryptic posts that he's made, you all have probably seen them if you research it all in this field. Like the last post had stuff about like, or not the last, but a recent post, one of his first posts had stuff that looked like performing sigils and things of that nature. And that was kind of shocking coming from somebody that was a super high security cleared employee at the Pentagon going through very classified and top secret, some would say above top secret files, and stumbling across the Immaculate Constellation article. And he had his interview with Jeremy Corbell. And George Knapp, which was really interesting because he gets into the stuff about like the global cabal, powers out there that are in control, that have more control than even our own government, that are more powerful than even our own military, or may be associated or part of our own military. Pretty terrifying stuff. Basically a unit that's out there protecting us. Well, I don't know, protecting us, maybe mostly protecting themselves first and then us from bad actors out there. Or perhaps they are the bad actors. It's again, that's the problem with the post is you have to really try to read between the lines. Um, and I would love to have like a space about this at some point and kind of talk through some of this Matthew Brown stuff because it is just a fascinating um, case, right? Because we don't know if it's 100% legit on the up and up or if they're even playing him. Um, I don't think they're playing him just because the way that he came by the information. It's not like they set it there for him to find. This was work he was doing on his own. So it's hard to envision them planting that there for him to find and then, releasing all this stuff. Plus some of the interactions he talks about, like the triangles above the Russian ships. It's not the first time we've heard this stuff, in particular with the triangles and the Russian ships. Um, so my chat is only going to YouTube. My apologies if you're in X and I'm not able to post it in X. I'm going to go ahead and end this recording and I'm going to go ahead and post the link to that article so that y'all can take a look at it. I would encourage you to start at part 1 if you haven't read any of it. And then get through the article. But if you've discounted Matthew Brown, don't. Make your own decision. Read what the man has to say. And maybe if you have written him off, you shouldn't have. Maybe you should reconsider. And that's about all I'll say about that. So thank you so much for joining me all. Again, this is my first live stream, kind of experimenting with it, messing around. I would rather, if I'm going to have any issues, that happen now instead of tomorrow morning doing the UAP hearing. So I hope to see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. We're going to watch the UAP hearing and then have some discussion afterwards and see if we learned anything new and what avenues we can go down to research it. Have a blessed night, y'all. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.